Hello guys and girls, and welcome to episode 81 of the FReality Podcast. This is a weekly VR, AR and MR talk show live streamed every Saturday on YouTube, Facebook and on Twitch. You can tune into the show live at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK and 12 midday in central US. You can also check out the audio version, which is available on iTunes, SoundCloud and on Anchor. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave us a nice review on iTunes. It would really, really help us out. Thanks to everyone that's joining us here live in the chat. Hello to you all. We really appreciate you joining us live every week. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback during the show, please put them in the chat. We'll try to answer as many questions as we can. And now it's time for me to introduce you to the team. Sadly, both Nathy and Rowdy couldn't make it this week, but I've enlisted the help of some VR friends of ours. So up first, forming one half of the formidable VR Femme Fatales, it's Cass from Cass and Cherry. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you guys for having us, or me.
Well,
today, so
it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
All right. Thank you guys.
So next up, everyone in the chat say ciao to the always informed about VR and tech in general. It's, of course, Tyriel Wood. How you doing, man?
Ciao, guys. Good, very good. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure to have you both on.
Yeah.
And this is something that people may not know about us, that we're actually all friends behind the scenes. We all talk to each other regularly. We see each other at events. You know, it's one big happy family. I feel like giving you a virtual big hug now, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing.
We just need a big pasta dinner. Share it between us.
Yeah.
Well, that may be
I
happening
think-
next week. Yeah, exactly. So if you don't know who's at the helm of this fine vessel, this guy is an absolute spacer and a junkie high on life. I guess that makes him a space junkie. It's legendary VR Twitch streamer, ZimTalk5.
Another
How you
wonderful
doing, man?
intro, man. Yeah, good. Slowly getting the ship back into steady seas, I think. But yeah, sorry for the slight delay there for the 110 of you watching. Thank you for holding on for the half an hour extra. Appreciate that. And for our audio listeners, you didn't have to wait at all. So you don't get any of my kudos. Come over to the video side, the dock side.
Yeah, absolutely. If you haven't swung by to see the video of us chatting, you should sometime and interact with everyone in the chat. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of really passionate people here today in the chat, so I'm looking forward to interacting with you all. But if you don't know who I am, my name is Mike. I'm the host of the show from Virtual Reality Oasis. In today's show, we're going to be talking about the two new headsets announced at GDC this week. That's, of course, the two big hitters, the Oculus Rift S and the Windows Mixed Reality HP Reverb. It's going to be an interesting showdown between these two giants for sure. Zim's going to give you the lowdown on the latest releases for next week, and then we'll be giving you the details on some new games for both Oculus Rift and Oculus Quest that were announced at GDC, along with much, much more. But of course, we'll start the show as we always do by finding out what people played this week and their highlight of the week. And of course, we're going to kick it over to Cass first to find out what you've been up to and what you want to talk about and share with us today.
All right. Yes. I've been playing a lot of VR games as a workout because the summer is almost coming and we never get sun in Holland, so we have to look good. And gyms, they bore me to death actually. So VR does not. So I bumped into this new game. It's called Rave Runner. Actually, it's a VR rhythm game, a new one. It's right now in its early stages in alpha. And it's made by a company called Orpheus and in partnership with Kinematic Studios. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, but they are both companies very committed to self-care and good health. So this rhythm game is called Rave Runner, and I know there has been a lot of rhythm games after Beat Saber, but the only rhythm game that has kept me playing the whole time, like every week, like a religion almost, is Beat Saber. And I think Rave Runner is going to be one of those games as well. Because, well, with Beat Saber, you guys all know it. You only move around your hands and your wrists, like you only train your arms, right? But with Rave Runner, it is actually designed to make you dance with your whole body. Like, instead of hitting the notes to the beat, like most rhythm games, Rave Runner is actually choreographed by a dancer. There's actually like a dancer avatar in front of you who does like all these dance moves. And then there's like those blocks coming at you, but then in such a order that makes you move your arms very smooth, and then it kind of makes you like, I don't know, busting dance moves out like smoothly. I probably look like a monkey.
No, you don't look like a monkey. But this is like so oddly coincidental, given we were just pre-show talking a little bit about Dance Central and the fact that I had to haul, because of all this harmonic stuff with Audica, haul out my Xbox 360 and Kinect. Because whenever you get new technology, which we'll be talking about today, I always want to go back and like play with my Wii and play with the Kinect and like reconnect with that stuff. But it's got runner in the title. I used to beg developers to implement something like, what was it called? Wii Fit, the Wii Fit
Just
module,
Dance, right?
where the Wii Fit module where you ran around an island. I used to think that would be a great implementation in VR, and begged a few different development teams to take it on. And then one of them actually keyed on to me. They're like, well, when you're running, if the headset's not like really tight against your face, it's knocking against your head, so it's not the best experience. I'm really curious. Is there any running in this title, or no? You're standing still.
You're not standing still, obviously, but you're not running. You're not like, there's no locomotion.
Okay.
There's like a road that's coming at you, so it feels like you're running, and it feels like you're an amazing dancer. But it probably doesn't look like that in real life. But yeah, I tried it yesterday with Cherry, and we had just such a good time with it. So it's so fun. I think once it's released, it will be a conversation starter. I think it's gonna be fun.
Awesome.
And it's coming on the Oculus Quest 2 as well. So
Very interesting. So, like, I'd be interested to know how you'd compare it to Audica. Have you tried Audica as well?
I haven't tried it yet. So I
Okay.
can't compare it.
And with Rave Runner, is it got the same sort of like musical style as Beat Saber, or does it have a certain genre that it kind of sticks with?
It has different genres right now. Right now, it also has the song called Satisfaction.
Okay, I'm in.
Like all
I'm
kinds of
in.
different
I'm
songs.
in. Benny
That one's
Benassi
my favorite.
is my man.
Is that the Benny Benassi song?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
okay.
actually
Then I'm kind of sold as well. I have to check this one out. That sounds cool.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Oh,
you can
nice one.
actually opt in for the alpha testing by going to their Discord, like everyone can.
Nice. And you think this is going to be your go-to app for working out in VR? Do you say?
Yeah, I think next to Beat Saber, I'm going to use this one as well.
Amazing. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for sharing that, Kaz. I'm excited about this game now. So let's move it on to Tyrell then, and find out what you've been playing this week and what you want to talk about and share with us today.
I guess was very specific, so I'm not gonna be as specific, like describing the game. But what I'm playing I played this week. Beside like playing with all the news around, because like that was my main thing. I actually went back to an old game, the VR Dungeon Night. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
It's a dungeon brawler made by one person actually, I believe, and it's just so polished, so nice. Like when you play in co-op, it's amazing. All these dungeons like random generated. There's a lot of way of locomotion, like you can just regular locomotion, the one similar to natural locomotion as well. That is very, like, for me, is very immersive when you use that. Then you have the climbing parts. You have stealth mechanics, like you have melee with the sword and the shield, and then you have also guns. Like, it's very particular game, and you evolve is like an RPG as well, so you get points to get better in stealth, to get better like armor and stuff like that. You buy armors. It's a very complete game. And
Cool.
Is that sorry to interrupt you there, Tyrell? Is it first person or is it third person?
First person.
Okay.
First person. You are inside. You are in there with your friend if you want. Like, it's online, but you can play also by yourself. And you just go through these dungeons, and like, it's like always unexpected because everything changed so much. And if you think this is made by one person, and then you get to a point where like there's like a trap, and you have to get through this trap and like think super fast. Like, you really think like you are in Indiana Jones insane.
Nice.
Like there are like some situations that are like just amazing. It's pretty cheap too. I think it's $14, something like that. and it's 1999, and it's actually very, very immersive. I really enjoy it, like playing with other people.
Yeah. So interestingly, like, because you said that you play sometimes with your girlfriend. Have you got like a two-system setup that you can both play together co-op, or?
Okay, not for this game yet, but I play usually with Heather, and that's a problem because every game costs double you guys pay for a game.
I know what that's like now. Oh my God. But what I recommend is still reach out to devs because they like this kind of coverage. So just like be like, hey, I want to play with the other half. Can you please help?
Please. I will, because like a game that we actually playing together is From the Other Sun. Zim knows about it.
Oh, I love that game.
And like together it's just amazing. Like you take control of the ship, like you go all around everywhere. It's like a super cool game. And that was pretty expensive because it's
oh God, you bought it twice. Like, show us the scar. Where did you sell the kidney? You sold the kidney, right?
I actually have one. Look at this. Like they took a part of my arm. But yeah, From the Other Sun was the other. And yesterday I played a little of Space Junkies just to see the difference between with the first beta. But I think we're gonna talk about that later.
Absolutely.
But overall, like great games, all three. Like I like playing co-op, so those are my games.
There you go.
And what was the first one called again? VR Dungeon Night.
VR Dungeon Night. That's
awesome.
How it starts.
There we go. So what about you then, Zim? What have you been playing this week? I'm intrigued.
I finally, after a couple of handy reminders from our dude Nathi, took up his recommendation for a game that uses room scale really well in my new Vive room. So a game called Vertigo, which is it looks and feels like a game that was maybe released in 2015. I didn't look up to see when it actually came out. But the lovely thing about playing a game that isn't in early access and has been out for years is that it runs so super smooth. So the game is first person, a bit like lo-fi, so it's kind of like low poly and stuff, but looks quite nice. There's a bit of the intro that's a bit like, the entrance scene to Half-Life 1 where you're on that like tram and you're going along. It's a bit like that. And then you meet eventually through your journeys and you have a teleporter and some tools and taking some robots down with like a sword. So there's some really nice elements to it. It starts off kind of dark and you're not really sure what's going on. There's a storyline I'm following with this, but so far, just like the way it operates, the frame rate and everything, like the way it performs, I love stuff that's been in the oven for 2 years. And I like stumble onto this old title and I'm like, it's like if you ran across something like Windlands or something like that, like for the first time 3 years on. It's absolutely fantastic. So I didn't know anything about Vertigo. I'd never seen it. And the thing that really does it is, and I was still nervous about walking through like my plain glass window or whatever, was doorways. Like when you walk through a doorway and you have that whole kind of sci-fi door, right? You push a button, door opens. You just like walk through it and it closes, and you push a button, it closes behind you. That's enough. That's enough to immerse me. And it's just like, that was sweet. And I just opened a door. And so Vertigo then, there's a bit of, there's some bad guys in it. And a friend of mine was kind of poking me and saying, did you meet the cat yet? Because apparently there was a free demo for Vertigo for some time. And you get up to the point where you meet the cat and then the demo finishes. Well, I met the cat. It's not a cat. And if you want to know what the cat is, you're going to have to play the game for yourself. It's not a nice cat.
I love it.
I do recommend it.
By the way, I'm reading in the chat.
I was going to say, it got to buy verdict for me, is just what I'm going to say. So Vertigo, definitely go backwards, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, so Fox is saying about Vertigo, that it was made by a 17-year-old person.
It's awesome.
And he now works at Valve.
No joke. There is definitely a kind of Valve veneer to the game. Like I said, it feels a little bit like Half-Life 1 in terms of kind of low scene complexity, but really does a good job of getting you into the feel. So no, not a surprise, but 17-year-old pat on your back.
Yeah, thanks for checking that out in the chat. That's an awesome little story to share. Thank you very much for that. So this week I got to, well, I'm not going to talk about something I played this week. I'm going to talk about something I played the week before because I couldn't talk about it last week. And if you're interested to know what it was Shadow Point on the Oculus Quest. So if you've got any questions, by the way, about the Quest, put them in the chat now, and by the time I've finished my little story, then maybe I can answer some questions, because I'm sure you've got some questions about it. But basically, I was invited by CoatSync up to their office, which is in the north of England, and check out their new game called Shadow Point. If you're not familiar with who CoatSync are, they've made some really cool VR games in the past, like Ep.81 and Ep.82 on the Oculus Rift, which are really great puzzle games. They've also made Augmented Empire, and They Suspect Nothing on both the Gear VR and the Oculus Go. Again, really standout games worth checking out. I think the Esper series are also available on the Go now as well, so if you're interested, have a look at those. But this new game called Shadow Point is a puzzle game. And it's going to be available for both the Oculus Rift and the Quest when it launches. And basically the whole premise of the game is you play a character that's looking into the disappearance of a girl called Lorna McCabe, who mysteriously disappeared from Shadow Point Observatory 12 years prior to when the game starts. It uses some really clever puzzle designs that I've not seen in VR before, such as using light and objects to create silhouettes. So you use an object, and almost like doing like shadow puppets when you're a kid, it's kind of like that. You manipulate the object to make the right size and shape silhouette to then proceed through the game. And these were very sort of basic puzzles, obviously, in the beginning, but I've been assured by the devs they do ramp up in difficulty later on.
I don't want to interrupt your flow, Mike, but I'm grinning like a Cheshire cat here because it's telling that you didn't get to that bit of Resident Evil 7 and you need to go back.
That's true. That's true. I didn't. Mike exposed. But
Resident Evil 2 as well.
The one really amazing standout thing about this game is, though, that Sir Patrick Stewart actually does the voice narration in this game, which is standout. Like, when you hear his voice for the first time, he's got such an amazing voice anyway, but it's like, oh wow, this is like really, really cool. And he's kind of guiding you through.
It warms you like a cup of tea, doesn't it, Mike, when you hear his voice? Like, I remember hearing him in, wasn't he in Morrowind? A 2D game, obviously, but I think he was at the start of Morrowind, and then I think he either dies off or sends your character away. RPG fans will know. Anyway, chat.
I love
tell
that
me
analogy, though. It's like a warm cup of tea. It is. It is, absolutely. But if you follow the show, you'll know that I love puzzle games. So that, this was really my jam. I really enjoyed it, and obviously getting to play it on the Quest as well, and having more time with the Quest was really great because it was just me and their PR guy Jack, who's a really funny guy. We just got to hang out for the day, and I was just playing their game and playing with the Quest. So that was really cool. I have to say, just quickly before I take any answers of questions about the Quest, is that the tracking I felt was much, much better in this demo than what we experienced back at OC5. It seems like that they've either tweaked stuff or the environment for the tracking of the Quest was better because I didn't have any of those like loss of hands or anything like we experienced at OC5. And also I got to check out the new Oculus Home for Quest, which is very different from Home on both Rift and Go. And there is a difference because it's a 3D environment, so it's almost like the original Oculus Home, if you remember that on Rift, where you had the carpet with the little turned up corner, that little home environment. It's kind of an environment like that, but now you're in a kind of like a bubble dome with like triangular windows in it. And then you've got this beautiful bookcase behind you with a big Oculus logo in the middle. It's really, really nice environment with some sort of like wooded, dark tree, night sky through the glass. Super nice.
Can you walk around?
Good question. I didn't. I didn't do that, but I don't think you can. I don't think you can.
Okay.
Did you try to touch stuff? Like in tech?
No, and this is the thing. Like, I think my brain is so wired to being standing in one place that you naturally don't. And I think when people start getting the Quest and they start walking around, you realize that you're free now. But because I was only in the home environment, I was just so excited to play the game. I was just like, okay, the menu. Oh, this is really nice. Play the game. That's basically my experience with the menu.
I can just imagine half of the viewers now, and listeners going like, "God damn it, Mike! You had one job, You know?
I know.
No, but to be honest, it's really cool that you got the opportunity to go and try it out. And I love hearing those early reflections of like, you know, the Quest has improved since we tried it. Because one of the things that I've been, and we'll touch on this a little bit later when we're talking about the Rift S, no doubt. One of the things I've been so nervous about for Oculus more than the consumers is this kind of growing perception I'm seeing on the web of like, this is going to be the holy grail of VR devices. I'm going to sell a kit and my PSVR and I'm going to go buy this thing and I'm going to be in heaven. And I kind of feel like what I tried in OC5 was more like a souped up Oculus Go that was good for gaming, but still had some holdback points. So...
Yeah, and I think that's a fair point. I think there is a lot of high expectations for this product for sure. And, you know, some people say, you know, oh, I'm going to drop my Rift now and get a Quest. You know, Rift is always going to remain the forerunner in terms of experiences, regardless of whether that's the OG Rift or the Rift S. You know, it's going to be the forerunner. It's going to be the most powerful VR experience you're going to be able to have with an Oculus product. But the Quest is a good second, and I think it's a good second place, especially for those that are dipping their toes into VR for the first time.
But what it is to me, Mike, is it's very much the Wild Wild West. Like what exactly? This is the perfect parallel because we all got to run around those boxes in a warehouse scale environment with this thing on and be like, how can they even do this technology now? Like it's too early. And developers and with side loading, you know, apps and all that kind of stuff. When people start breaking into what it can really do and playing with it, like I'm talking university projects, like with the Vertigo 17-year-old. You know, that's the stuff that really excites me, even more so than the stuff that's been in the oven for a year and they're ready to, you know, put it at launch. I mean, Beat Saber's still on the top of my list. Don't get me wrong, but all that other stuff is a close second, and I think it is still worth people's money and should still go for it. And I'm so excited to be able to play the latest revision when we get out to Boston next week.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you've got any questions about the Quest, you guys or anyone in the chat, now's a good time before we move on to the quick news. If there's anything you want to know that maybe I might be able to tell you about my hands-on experience.
Was their unit obviously an engineering sample, or was it the final?
It was the same dev kits we tried at OC5, so they're not final.
So
they're
software what am I trying to say here? Software improvements that led to your improved experience then. Good.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
Did you notice the... Yeah. Did you notice a difference? Did you notice the difference in the Rift experience as the Quest experience? Because I think you tried both, right?
So no, actually, that's an interesting story because this is the thing. Like with the dev kits, you can't record with any content with them yet. So obviously this was a big problem because I wanted to show the gameplay of the game. So the developers actually played through the game a second time, and I paired up the footage to show you what I was seeing in the headset. So I can say that the footage that I provided is comparable with what I saw in the Quest. Like the graphical fidelity is the same because you know it's a not basic looking game, but it's watered down, you know, to run well on both systems. But yeah, you know, I didn't play it on the Rift, so I don't know. But I have to say the experience is really great, basically. And it's got some really complicated movements that really tests the tracking. So I was really impressed that it held up to that.
And just touching on CodeSync for a second, I've met them for the last kind of 2-3 years through the journey, and obviously Esper 2, for instance, is probably the first thing I touched on from them. Then on the go, Augmented Empire. I have faith in them as a developer, right? I mean, whatever they put out, I'd go and ingest. But I'm kind of curious, did you notice with the game any lag, stuttering, you know, performance issues, aside from the kind of flying hand controllers that you mentioned? Anything?
Very, very slight stutter, very slight, but it was only occasional.
Frame rate hop.
Could be that, that could be that it was just a dev build still, you know, still an early dev build demo. But yeah, to be fair, there was a slight stutter there at some points.
Right.
But yeah, overall, like, you know, if you're excited about these games and you haven't previously tried like Esper 2 on the Rift or on the Go and check it out while you're waiting for these other titles because it's a standout title, got some great voice acting in there as well.
So good.
Mike, I have a question.
Sure, man.
A little more technical question. So when we all tried like the Oculus Quest, the OC5, if you remember, we had like a weird like carpets around with like different shapes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
so the tracking was working because it was grabbing on something, some particular image. When you had your demo there, did you add this kind of environment, or was just a regular environment?
So it's a regular environment, and
Okay.
although I didn't walk around the home environment, I did walk around freely in the game environment, and that's actually quite liberating when you, because the thing is, what I did was before I started the game, I set up my Guardian system, and that was the first time I ever got to see that as well, and that was super impressive actually. It's worth mentioning that basically you set up your Guardian, it automatically detects your floor, so it lays like a purple layout of the floor that is around you, and the pass-through cameras now, still black and white, but much higher fidelity than they were previously.
Yeah.
I remember at OC5, they were like almost like that aha video, that music video. Whereas now it feels like just a grainy black and white video image. So I could see the floor mapped out, and then it was like, okay, draw with a laser pointer, so stand in one spot, but draw in a laser pointer your Guardian, where the limits of your floor space is. Did that, and then I was straight into the game. So I could walk around freely, and then obviously when I was getting close, the Guardian would pop up and say it's there.
No, but I would, so like in your real life environment, there was nothing weird to help the tracking, just a regular place.
Absolutely, yep.
That's
just
great.
a regular carpet, yep.
It's great to know because like during Dead and Buried, when we did like the arena experience, there were like just shapes everywhere. But of course, that was very like push into the limit, the tracking. And I was so impressed about the performance there. But also like you could see in every box there was a little shape on top. It was really particular. I'm happy that it's gonna work in any environment without any problem.
Yeah, I'm super pumped for Quest.
Well,
Super pumped for Quest.
like all of you guys are going to do, and Gal, is you take this thing, take it out of the box, rip off the little plastic bits, and go ooh, and then you slap it on your head, and then you go, can I walk through my whole bloody house and map it out in black and white? I want to do that. So that's my plan anyway. I don't know about you.
I actually did it with the Windows Mixed Reality.
Oh, yeah.
With the laptop, and they went all around the house, like bathroom included, and my house is completely mapped in VR, so I can go in every. I mean, it's a New York apartment, so don't expect anything like
two boxes, right? Two rooms.
Not to mention, you can like everywhere I connect my headsets right now, the Windows Mixed Reality headset, I always have tracking because it tracks the whole apartment.
That's awesome.
And I can't wait to do the same with the Quest because it's gonna work for sure.
Can you imagine fabbing that to Unity or something, and then porting it into your Oculus room space, and be like, this is my place to scale, perfect. Someone's gonna do that.
That's what I wanted to do, and actually, there's a way to do it in Windows Mixed Reality with Windows. You can create your own place. It's a little complicated, so I don't know how to do it. But using photogrammetry is called.
Photogrammetry.
That would be super cool. Like being in your apartment, but VR, like.
That's like Inception right there.
I've dreamt of that since The Sims, and I think Mike has done that. But anyway, so we don't hold in this spot. Mike, back to you.
Sure. Dennis is asking, how's the head strap?
Super comfortable, just like Rift, super comfortable. Like the Rift is the most comfortable headset in my opinion, and it's on par with the comfort of that. So yeah, I think people that are interested in the Quest will be super happy with this device. So let's move on because I could talk about the Quest all day. So let's get into some quick news and start off obviously with some sad news, which is a bit of a shame because obviously we were all super hyped for GDC last week. You know, I've never seen a buzz in our little group of content creators and friends be so excited about an event. Like we were really buzzing. Yeah. But one of our predictions on the show last week was that we would finally, hopefully, see something from Valve. You know, we know that their headset has been teased for some time. You know, Cass, you've got the Knuckles, right? You've had a lot of hands-on time with them. And it feels like we've got a release of this imminent. You know, it's going to be soon. And we thought GDC was going to be the event for the news. But sadly, there was nothing at GDC from Valve in terms of VR. They did have a presentation. It was mainly about cosmetic upgrades to the Steam client. They mentioned VR once, but it was just the fact that they support it rather than they've got something lined up. So yeah, I was super disappointed. No news from Valve. I don't know about you guys. How did you feel about it?
It's
sad.
Yeah, it sums it up well.
I was expecting some information about at least the knuckles, at least like
Yeah,
something,
because they even updated the Moondust app.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. They updated the Moondust app to 3.0. There are different interaction, blah blah blah. But I said like, please give me like at least like, hey, we are on track, like 2019. Like, don't tell me like a day, but tell me like just it's gonna arrive. Instead, we are still in the like nothing, like completely nothing. We don't know anything about it.
Although the rumor has it from people that we know is that something's going to happen soon. That's all we know, but we don't have any more specifics than that. We don't know any more than that. As soon as obviously we do know, we'll let you know.
That just sounds so. You on time.
Flight 3 as well, right?
Exactly. But yeah, so I just wanted to mention the fact that if you missed the news at GDC, you didn't miss anything from Valve. However, although we didn't have any news from Valve, we did get some new games announced. So let's quickly round those up now. And obviously the big one that we've all been waiting for forever, it seems, is Beat Saber announced for the Oculus Quest. I think we were all breathed a big sigh of relief, like when we heard the news that it was coming to Quest, because people are out there saying, well, it was obvious it was going to come to the Quest. Well, that is kind of true, but the problem was that it was so quiet about what was going on with it, and you don't know what's happening behind the scenes in terms of deals being made between these Beat games and Oculus about being an exclusive title or whatever it might be. You don't know how these deals are going to work out sometimes. So although it's not a huge surprise, I think we're all just very glad that is happening.
I thought it was so cheeky the way they fucking unveiled it, though. Like, to put a video up of someone on Quest. It was I'm trying to remember the guy's name again, but doing the moves, and it's just like so obvious. It's like, okay, you've announced it. You've announced it, but that was actually, in terms of viral marketing, I think that was a lovely way to do it. I really appreciated that, and I like when companies don't just do the same fitting mold, and so after all that build up, although it was somewhat expected, it was still a nice celebration of the announcement.
Absolutely.
And I can't fucking wait to beat Saber in my garden or something.
Like in parks. With people watching. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it will be scary to see where people are gonna play.
No, what Cass says is perfect, right? You know that like 7 a.m. group that gets together for yoga in the park? Well, feck it, I'm starting up a 7 a.m. Beat Saber club, and you're all invited.
Strap a subwoofer to your back and everyone else can join in.
Cool. I imagine the scene when the scene in Back to the Future when he gets in the back of the truck and he goes through the class when they are like doing spinning, and imagine now all these girls like in VR like
yeah, absolutely. So one cool snippet that we did see of the game from the Quest was from John Carmack, because he actually live streamed some Beat Saber gameplay from the Oculus Quest directly to Facebook, which is a feature obviously we know is available on Go. And it was interesting because he also shows off the home environment. If you're interested to see what it looks like, go and check out the stream. Someone has re-uploaded it on YouTube, so you can check it out. But I did note that the Monster Cat DLC, which is recently just launched, wasn't in the menu. So whether or not it hadn't been added yet and will be added before launch, we don't know, but there's still plenty of content there. You still have the original volume, you still have the PSVR tracks, and you still have the bonus ones, which include the pop stars from KDA. So there's still loads of content, and I'm sure the DLC will be coming soon.
I think you're right, Mike. It's got to be just that was a dev build, because at this stage, given they've got parity across all their platforms, you're not going to release new and not be in parity. It just doesn't make sense. So
yeah. So that was Beat Saber. Super happy that that's coming. The next one that we heard about from the event, this is just going to be for Rift and PC VR headsets, and this is Trova Saves the Universe, because the really interesting thing about this game is that it was originally announced as a PlayStation exclusive title, and now will be coming to PC. The game can be played on a screen in pancake mode or in VR. It's from Squanch Games, who includes the legendary Justin Roiland, who made Rick and Morty, of course. And Squanch Games also made Accounting, which was a hilarious VR game as well, if you haven't checked that one out already. But the interesting thing about Trova Saves the Universe coming to PC is that it's going to be coming to Steam and the Epic Store. So this could potentially be the first title VR title to launch on the Epic Games Store, and it will be interesting if they support it with some sort of VR mode on their store, because they haven't announced anything like that so far, despite being the developers, of course, of Robo Recall. So yeah, I'm not quite sure how that's going to work out, but are you guys excited for Trova Saves the Universe?
It's a weird title, so yes. And the previous VR titles have been good. You know, like Rick and Morty's one. The only thing I didn't like about Rick and Morty at the time, given my space, was you really do need a kind of a medium-size VR environment to properly appreciate that with all the me-syncs going off and all that. But another Squanch game? Definitely.
Yeah. Very cool. They also, interestingly, whilst we're on the subject of Epic, they showed a Robo Recall demo showing some really new physics they've sort of put together in a package called Chaos. It was sort of set in the Robo Recall world, but obviously nothing sort of announced to say that they're releasing a sequel, but it looked amazing. Like the crumbling buildings of like the gunfire and stuff looked absolutely incredible, and hopefully it is a sign of things to come to a sequel.
I wonder
about that, Mike. On Twitter, there was a video about a guy playing that demo with the Vive ones, but without VR, just in front of a big screen. So it was a kind of weird seeing that, but they were using the Vive ones and on the screen, and you were just moving around this like a big mech. That is the big robot that there is in Robo Recall. That you can get to the control of also in the regular game, and it seems like it's going to be just that part. So probably it's just a demo to see the structurability of the engine, because Unreal is not so good in that. So probably they want to prove something, because if you think about 2D games, like if you want destruction, usually people use Frostbite, that is the one from Battlefield and stuff like that. And so probably they want to get in the competition in that too. So
that makes sense. I
really hope it's going to be a Robo Recall too, by the way, because that game was like amazing. Like, probably it was still one of the best. Like, I remember jumping inside the headset just for the music because I was so excited.
You know, you're at the end of like a night going out with your friends or whatever, right? And you go to the Burger Hut or whatever, you get a burger, and how fast you eat that. Like, that's how I ingested Robo Recall. It was like, I need another burger. I just, please. And so that's where I am. If anyone hasn't, like, say you're on the Vive side and you never even considered reviving it, do consider it, because it's got some of the best humor in an FPS and some of the great inverse kinematics and stuff that you've got to experience. It's a must play.
And great mechanics as well, great music. It's like all comes together very, very nice. It's like to perfection.
It's good length too. It doesn't drop you off too quickly. Like I think it was probably double the length that I was expecting it to be, which was nice.
The thing I was expecting though is like more mods for that game, because it support mods. Instead, they never didn't get like the flow with mods. Like, it would have been so interesting to see new maps, because there were just one more maps, or to see someone doing multiplayer or something like that. Instead, we didn't see it.
Of course, Robo Recall will be coming to the Quest as well. So if you haven't played it already on Rift, it's going to be on Quest. So
I did not know that. That's an amazing game to have on Quest. That's going to feel awesome.
So yeah, let's talk about Dead and Buried 2 then, because that was also announced at GDC and Quest with cross-platform play as well. So Rift players will be able to play with Quest players and vice versa, which is going to be super cool. The original Dead and Buried mainly had you kind of static behind cover, and you just like pop up every now and again shooting your enemies, whereas this game seems very different. You know, it's really focused on movement and encourages moving around with free locomotion as well. So I like the fact that they've shifted and this is a more active game. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, you know, as a multiplayer shooter. From the video that we're playing now, it looks like it's a 3v3, but I couldn't quite be sure because I think the original game was just 2v2, right?
I think it was just 2.
There's 2 versus 2, but also against each other, like 4 people against each other.
Right.
And co-op.
Right. And co-op, right. Yeah. So I'm hoping that we should find out more details about this next week. We should find out more details in general about Quest launch titles next week, because I didn't mention this, but we're all going to be at PAX east in Boston together, right? So we're all going to be hanging out together.
Jazz hands, everyone. Jazz hands. Come on.
So hopefully, whilst we're there, we'll get more of the Quest launch lineup. We get to play Dead and Buried 2 on the Quest. And I'm just hoping that they release some way that we can replicate that Dead and Buried arena demo that we tried at OC5. Even if it's not something we could do at home, at least if like VR arcades have the technology to set up that and replicate that, because I think that'll be amazing for them.
You know what's going to happen, Mike? If that gets out onto the headset somehow, there's going to be like empty warehouses everywhere that are going to be like, you know, like at the moment, like if you're in London, a lot of people don't know this, but if you're in London, there's like these short fuse raves that happen and you don't get to know about it or the dress. Only all the cool people get to know about it. All of a sudden it's happening in some dude's barn, right? Out like just outside London. That's what's going to happen. Like VR parties would be like kick it off and people will be running around warehouses and barns and stuff. I want part of that.
I want to see that clip from Ready Player One reenacted in real life. You know, the four Spartans running up the road with the headsets on. That's what I want.
Dude, we're going to PAX. You're going to see that in a week.
Good. Yeah. I hope so.
So there's someone in the chat asking if it will be cross-buy. Because I know there's cross-buy, right? They are going to activate it, but developers are going to have to turn it on themselves, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a really good point. Cross-buy has been enabled, like you say, but it's at developers' discretion. However, most developers are pretty much on board with it from what I've heard inside. Yeah. And this is kind of weird because, especially for developers, like you need to understand this. Like if they've previously made a Rift game and they've ported it to Quest, it's not as easy as just flipping a switch and, it's on Quest now. It took a lot of dev time and work. So if they do offer that for free, you know, I would just say, you know, try and share the buzz around the game. You know, be thankful for the fact that they've given you the game for free if you've bought it once already on Rift.
It's a very good point, Mike, because I would not have I missed the whole cross-buy thing, and it's a huge point for them to have it in the platform. I'm glad, and I think it is the right thing to put it on to the developers. And the other thing that I would say, further along your line of your point, is if you're a developer and you're releasing on both, and you know your bottom line, and you can't do it, don't feel peer pressured into enabling that. As much as we like it, we like you to be on a live studio in 3 years, even more. So
true. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And then the final game that I want to talk about is a game that we were really excited about and was teased by Nate Mitchell. And this was the Zelda game that he said that he got to play. And this is, of course, Journey of the Gods. This is the game from Turtle Rock Studios, the same team that brought you, Left 4 Dead and Evolve. This is like basically Zelda in VR, right? From what we've seen from the trailer, you have a shield that looks like the Hylian shield from Zelda. You have a sword, you have a crossbow. You've also got some interesting mechanics where you can change from being human on the ground to being transforming into a godlike character by switching between them to solve puzzles and stuff like this. And I thought this is kind of very familiar because it's very similar to the mechanic in Sanzaru's latest game, Asgard's Wrath, where you can also play as a human and then switch to a godlike character as well. So it's kind of interesting. We've got these two games going to be releasing that have this kind of similar mechanic. But I really like the cel-shaded kind of art style of this one. I think it looks super nice. I think it's going to be a great title. Again, coming to Rift and Quest.
Very enticing. I mean, a lot of the kind of baddies that you've seen in the trailer are pretty cool from a design perspective. They don't look very samey, so I always like seeing that. So you're not just sticking with kind of one set of animations or whatever. So they've obviously put their muscle behind it. Looking forward to playing that.
And although we don't know, obviously, because there's going to be 50 plus launch titles for Quest, you know, this is just a handful of them. We've shared a handful of them before as well. We don't know the full Quest launch lineup yet, but we're hoping to get that information next week at PAX. Once we get that information, of course, we'll probably all individually share it with you on our separate channels. So make sure you keep subscribed to everyone and find out what's going on. The one rumor that I do want to share about the Quest before I move on to releases is that we did find out that there's going to be a higher capacity storage model available on launch, because we know that the base model of the Quest is going to be 64 gigabytes. A lot of people were concerned, especially with loading a lot of media, that they're going to just max that out straight away. You'll be pleased to know that there's also going to be a 128 gigabyte model available too. We don't know about pricing yet. That's the rumor, so it's not concrete evidence, but we think it's probably highly likely.
I think it's a smart choice. It's smart to have a more storage.
Absolutely. They did it with the Go.
About this game, though, there's something like scares me a little. and it's
Okay.
the fact they give you a crossbow and not a bow.
Mm-hmm.
And now, I really want to see like bow mechanics with the Quest, and I hope they're gonna work well enough, because like seeing the crossbow, it's it's fine, I like it, but with the crossbow you stay like this. With the bow you get here, and here you have a problem with the inside out tracking
Near your face, anything close proximity to the headset itself. Yeah.
So that scares me a little, because it's like, do we have this kind of experience with the crossbow because a Quest limitation, or just because they wanted to do that?
It's a really good point. It is a really good point. And, you know, the Quest does have its limitations in terms of its tracking, definitely in those situations. You know, just like Rift S, which we're going to get onto later, you know, you hold a controller behind your back. Same with Windows MR as well. You know, the tracking is occluded from the cameras, and you're either going to have a bad tracking experience or it's going to be completely lost. There's no way around that. That's just what we've got to deal with right now.
Turn to a rotational.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like the good thing though, like playing a lot with Windows Mixed Reality, like with the bow mechanics, like some games, like they have it in the right way. So when then you move your head around, you like lock the position with the head, and so you can keep doing it. Some games don't do it, so you see this arrow going through your body, through your face, pretty much. And it's really up to the dev at this point, but. I really hope we are going to see bow mechanics with the Quest, because I think that, and we all know that is one of the best mechanics in VR. Like, since the lab, like everyone loves it. Like, it gives you just that feeling that is good. So I hope we're going to keep it that way, because it's one of the best experience for me.
You highlight and underline a point that's very close to home for me, which is what's the tactile variety going to be on Quest? What's that range of feelings that we're going to get through the controllers, given they're a little bit of a physical form factor down from the touch controls. So I'm very keen to see that. I think the internal workings are going to be quite similar, but actually the kind of range of feelings that you can get, that it can actually generate, I'm very interested in, to your point, because there, even if it's that subtle bit, that subtle signal that's going to your brain, it's all that you might need to be, 25% more immersed. So, looking forward to next week.
Yeah, we're gonna try without any bow. Like, let's do it.
You're all getting me super hyped for next week now. So before Zim gets into the releases, I just want to say thanks again to the sponsor of this week's episode of the FReality Podcast, and that is, of course, our sponsor, Onward. Now, if you're not familiar with Onward, it's an awesome tactical military first-person shooter available in virtual reality. It's a favorite of competitive tactical gamers who love to squad up in teams of 5v5 for online competitive play, or if, like me, you like to ride solo, there's some great single-player missions as well that you can check out. With a huge update on the horizon bringing loads of new and exciting features, now is a great time to jump into the game and get some practice in. So check out Onward now. It's available on Steam and the Oculus Store.
Thank you, Mike. All right, guys, are you ready for some releases this week? I am going to play to our strategy fans this week, because I've got two different RTSs to talk to you about. The first one, I'm ashamed to say this launched 2 days ago, and I knew nothing about it. It's a game called Final Assault. It's available on Oculus Rift and HTC Vive, and this was launched March 21st. So when I first saw this game, I thought immediately of Company of Heroes, which was a fantastic RTS. It's probably about 10 years ago now. This game touts a single-player campaign, which is meant to be quite extensive, 14 maps, and of course the multiplayer. Cross-platform play between Oculus Rift and Vive, which is great, and has some MOBA elements added into it for a bit of a different flair, let's say, spin on that. The price is around about £16 at the moment on sale, so it's about $20. And I think it's something that's quite, well, to quote a Steam reviewer, this is a photo engineer, I wanted to give you some feedback, because it is being pretty well touted on Steam at the moment. So this is Final Assault. This is what he said. He said, to put it simply, this game is a nearly perfect take on RTS for VR. The only other game that comes close is Brass Tactics, which Mike and I played in a tournament. And Phaserlock, the development studio, did a great job here. If you're familiar with their previous game, Final Approach, the control scheme is very similar with the same sort of gestures. The games are action-packed and fast-paced. There's not really any downtime. Excellent performance, fluid controls. You get lost in it for hours. He said, if you're a fan of RTS games and VR, this is a must-have. So there you go. That's World War II themed RTS for you on Rift and Vive.
So I just want to quickly just say something about this game, because I did try it out in the beta. It doesn't have any base building like Brass Tactics has, and the movement of your troops is locked to different lanes. So you've got lanes to choose from, and they only funnel down those lanes. So it's kind of a bit restricted, but they've done that to get more people in and make it more accessible to players. But yeah, if you like strategy, then check it out.
That's also, so those are the MOBA elements, because the lane restrictions, and like if you've ever played a game like Smite or League of Legends or anything like that, I'm actually really interested in. How did you find that soup kind of simmered together? Did you like it? Did you not like it? I'm kind of curious what your feedback is on that, Mike, because you're a strategy fan, aren't you?
Yeah, so I didn't like it. I preferred Brass Tactics. I think it's still the best RTS available in VR right now. And I was hoping really that it was going to be Command and Conquer, basically. That's what I was hoping for going into it. But sadly, that's not what it is. Yeah. So it's a RTS MOBA light. That's what I would describe it as in my mind. So
you think they kind of took a chance on something, and you think didn't really pan out?
Yeah, it's not one that I'm probably going to go back to be honest.
Yeah, good to know. All right, the next one is one that I probably wouldn't go back to, given we're lining these up. Released on PSVR is Skyworld, an RTS that to me struck me as a very interesting, albeit potentially odd, choice for Vertigo Games as their next move from Arizona Sunshine. So the Arizona Sunshine creator moved to create Skyworld, which to me feels a bit like if you took a Lazy Susan and constructed a battlefield around it, and you rotate this around and you're attacking kind of around the brim or the edge of that circular world, then that's essentially what you see here. It's a bit of a weird one, I found, because I think multiplayer would work better. I was focused primarily on the campaign, and I felt it was a little bit maybe too easy at some stages, a little bit too hard in others. It's obviously very well polished. The game looks great, and it's got some mechanics like cards that you pick up, and that this is coming to PSVR, so maybe they've been kind of itching for better strategy games. I don't know of many on that platform, so this may be very well received. But on PC, it currently sits around kind of like an 80% approval rating on Steam. So obviously other people like it more than I do, and about a 4.5 star rating on Oculus Home. So it's actually well liked out there, and it is a bit of a unique kind of blend. It's another blend, just like the previous one. They blended kind of this whole like deck building, almost again like Magic the Gathering style kind of card element into it with the strategy game, and that blend to me felt a little bit uncomfortable. I never got the opportunity to play against a real player, so those matches might be a little bit better, something akin to Dragonfront from Oculus, which is another good game. Anyway, I'll just quote another Steam reviewer here, because I think it kind of balances out what the game is all about. So if you are looking for a traditional RTS experience like StarCraft, Warcraft, or Age of Empires, this game will not give you it. And I would agree with that. It says, I don't say that as a negative thing, but as someone who played a ton of StarCraft as a kid and a teenager, this game is nothing like those. I also played Landfall, an Oculus Rift game that launched a while back. This has a sort of similarity, since they're marketed as an RTS, but actually more like a twin stick. This game has more depth than Landfall and plays like a real RTS. I would say Skyward most closely relates to a mix of Clash of Clans and Civilization's Revolution, the dumbed-down version of Civ. And that was coming from J Trill Trap God on Steam. So I like getting some of that feedback, but I thought that comment does a good job of kind of summarizing what this game offers. Okay, third and final and most obvious of the releases, I think, is Space Junkies, which I got a chance to play. Tyrell did. I think, Mike, you've played it. I don't know, Kaz, did you get a chance to play some Space Junkies yet?
I haven't had a chance yet.
Okay.
No.
So
I'm curious what you think.
I will definitely give a bit of a run through on this one anyway, because the nice thing about Space Junkies, which I think, Mike, you and I played it first, OC4, feels like years ago at this point, which it nearly been 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
This game is quite an exciting thing when you look at it on paper, because it's a first-person shooter, kind of volumetric space shooter, if I want to call that, multiplayer game. It is available on Rift 5, Windows MR, and it's around about $40, 34 pounds sterling. This is from Ubisoft, so if you're not a fan of their whole Uplay system and all that, I know some people aren't, it might not be one for you. But it's essentially a jetpack-fueled kind of arcade shooter where you fly around and you have 2v2 battles or 1v1 battles in these orbital arenas, which are interesting because there's a verticality to the combat that you don't find in many other titles. And I would say that comparing with other space titles, I don't know how they do it, but it is relatively comfortable. I've never felt any kind of twinge of motion sickness, even when I've been ill and playing the game recently. So the things that I will highlight about this game, which I found most interesting, I'd say is when you reach behind your right shoulder blade and you pull out a giant like nano sword, that thing is feckin' awesome. That feels great. So I don't know what your favorite weapons are, lads and lady, but I would say, as much as I want the nano sword, I think my favorite is probably the feckin' grenade slingshot. That's probably my favorite weapon. But what would be yours?
How does the nano sword look like? It sounds like really small.
No. Sorry, nano sword is is a reference back to Deus Ex, which is an old '90s game, which had a bunch of nanobots that would help assist and sharpen the blade so that it could cut through like any surface, like cut through diamond or stuff like that. So my reference there is probably a little bit wrong, but it's a freaking awesome blade. It looks like Master Chief would pull it out of his back pocket.
Yeah.
Cool.
And that's the feeling I had from Space Junkies. The first time I played it, it reminds me a little Halo in a way.
Yeah.
Like also the armors are very similar. It's like is a good feeling. But I have a question for you guys, because you tried it too at OC4. I tried it at PAX East last year.
Yeah.
And did you find any difference from that build?
Yes.
I found it to be exactly the same game, and I don't know what they did for a year.
Yeah, I think they polished a lot and they got their network code ironed down. I know that had some problems early on, but I would agree that the core game, let's say I was a little disappointed. I mean, look, they are on all the different platforms now. So I understand that obviously takes time. But I like you, I had a similar feeling, and I felt a bit disappointed that because of the early kind of take on Unreal Tournament, that they didn't give me facing worlds and the ability to play 8v8 or something like that. I don't know if they can support it, but I think the game absolutely should, if they're going to do like a patch, if the game is successful for them, come out with an expansion pack and bring that stuff in. Because I've seen so many comments about it. It's what my soul tells me is, give me that kind of ultra, that Unreal Tournament bit. I want more than 2v2.
Yeah, so basically they brought the game to PSVR. Is what took a lot of time. Because I met with the Ubisoft team. I visited their office here in the UK, and they were talking about it. And yeah, like you say, it's 2v2 right now, but there is stuff that they've experimented with more players, but they haven't hinted the fact that they're going to bring that to release yet. But they are playing with it behind the scenes. They are basically wanting to make this game the big competitive game moving forward. And having played it again this morning at home, it's just got this really satisfying, fast, you can just hop in, have a couple of games, then hop out and have a lot of fun. But what I hadn't really seen before that I saw this morning was that every match that you win, you unlock items.
Yeah, stuff.
And I don't know if and you're always unlocking stuff, and it's really satisfying, and you feel rewarded for your gameplay. And there's a lot of customization with your sort of tag and also the way your character looks as well, which is really, really cool. And I think that's where they've been really adding a lot of polish to.
They obviously know me well. My first unlock was just a roll of toilet paper. I was like, do I really want... Did I just put that on my profile? It's on my profile now. I'll tell you the other thing that's really cool, Mike, that I experienced yesterday. And by the way, I forgot to mention this. This is the most important thing. It is a 4.5 gigabyte download, And at the moment, they've got an open beta. So jump in there on whatever platform you're on and play it. It's available for the next day and a half. It's going away 24th of March. That's tomorrow evening. So do it if you've got the download speed. But the thing I found really fun was the chicken dance at the end of every match. Being able to animate yourself and, high five your opponents or whatever. Awesome dev choice.
And
can
also,
you use that later on as well? After you record it?
After you...
Oh, you can't record it. It's just like there's an end screen that shows all the characters at the end of each match, and your actions are shown to everyone else. So you could do like a dab, you could do like a little chicken dance, you could do like a little,
Macarena.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And one thing connected to this actually is like, I don't know if you guys noticed, but the hand mechanics, the hand like presence is amazing in this game because you can really connect like with your hand. Like if you keep like the thumbs up on the Rift, like you have the thumbs up, when you turn it and you turn it like this, so the pinky goes up and so you can do like this. It's like there are a lot of different like posture like you can have and it's so automatic. Like you can also do the Italian if you want. That's
really
right for me. It's like there's so many stuff. It just works so well for like hand presence, that game, and the graphic is also very nice. So like seeing your hands is like these big gloves is just it's immersive and like kind of it's a game in the game. The fact that you can talk with your hands as well, and very Italian. I love it.
I was gonna say we picked the right podcast to have an Italian on,
Yeah. But,
Exactly. I would say, if you're on the fence about this game, definitely go and check out the open beta while it's up. Like Sim said, it's up for like a day and a half, 2 more days now. Cross-platform play with PSVR and PC, so definitely jump in. I think you'll really love it because I'm digging this game.
I have to play the other side of the fence for one moment because there's a big gripe that I have with the game is that it's very HUD heavy. There's a lot of HUD elements, and I don't particularly like that. I know you can like disable I don't mind the mask because you're like wearing a spacesuit or whatever. That's fine. But there's a lot of like high, low resolution, so like large numbers and things going on all over the place throughout the HUD design. So I'd love to have a kind of a light HUD light mode, even if it's not the default, to be able to step back to. So I get a bit more immersed. Less numbers and stuff in my face.
Cool. So that's it for releases, I guess.
It is. Yes, only three. I went back to my norm. Yeah, sorry, I should have transitioned that a little bit better. Over to you, Mike.
So let's get into the really juicy stuff now. Let's talk about hardware. And let's start with the Rift S. This is the one that everyone was super hyped about. We were all really excited about it, waiting for the news to drop. And I have to say, although I was really excited when the news did drop, it kind of took the shine off it a bit that Oculus just did a blog post update and press were just releasing articles about it. Like, it just doesn't have the same wow factor as having a big presentation, right? Like we've seen in the past at OC5 or like when Apple unveil a new product, they have a big presentation. I think this would have been nice to have something like that. I don't know about you guys and girls. How did you feel about the kind of way that they just kind of launched it this way?
Who starts? Ladies first. Go.
Yeah. But I kind of agree with you. Yeah, it's the same for me. Like OC5 was so much more like, wow, and this was a little bit less. Yeah, and even the trailer felt for me a little bit.
Yeah.
Better.
It was all like, it seemed a bit more downplayed. It wasn't the big spectacle that we kind of hoped for, I guess.
Yeah, but I think it does kind of fit the S, though.
I guess that's exactly right. And, we're definitely going to get into that shortly. But last week on the show, we had some predictions. And the predictions were that we thought it would utilize the Oculus Insight tracking from Quest, which it does. The one thing that we didn't get right, though, was that we thought it was going to have a similar resolution to the Vive Pro, which is also the resolution of the Quest. We were wrong about that. We were very surprised about the fact that it was less, and I'm going to get into the specs very shortly. But if you missed all the news, I'm just going to quickly summarize it with all the sort of key headline points. The Rift S is going to be a tethered PC VR headset, same minimum spec as the original Oculus Rift. It looks very different from the original Oculus Rift, though, because they've ditched the baseball cap style fit of the original Rift that we all know and love. And they've now got this halo style head strap design, which they've brought in conjunction with a partnership with Lenovo. And this partnership with Lenovo obviously runs deep with the headset, because it even has the Lenovo logo on the side of the Rift S. And Tyrell showing us the original Lenovo Windows MR headset there. It no longer has the over-ear headphones, earphones that we know with the Rift, that were really a standout feature of the Rift that made it, a real premium headset. And they've chosen to go down to the design route of using like an audio pipe system, same as Oculus Go and Oculus Quest, which basically channels the audio down the rigid head strap to your ears. The resolution is an increase over the original Rift. The original Rift is 1080 by 1280 OLED displays, 2 of them, whereas Rift S will have a single LCD panel which runs at 2560 by 1440, which basically equates to 1280 by 1440 pixels per eye, but obviously using an LCD panel. The really weird thing about this is that it's a lower resolution than the Oculus Quest. The Quest has a resolution of 1600 by 1440 pixels per eye using OLED panels. So it seems strange that they would bring a product to market that is a PC-based headset, but features a lower resolution than their standalone headset. And I think this is where a lot of people got upset. A lot of people were confused about this headset. And of course, I'm saying all this now. This is just basically what the specs are on paper. The other big thing that was glaringly obvious from the specs that was a big change was that the panel now, despite being an LCD panel, is now running at 80 hertz. So we're used to all PC VR headsets running at 90 hertz. And we've been told since the very beginning, we've been drummed into us from the industry themselves that 90 hertz is the key number to have, because that's what you get the best and most comfortable experience. So then when we see Oculus releasing this headset and saying, actually, no, we're releasing this one and the maximum refresh rate is 80 hertz, everyone's like, what the heck? We've been told 90 is the key all along. and I get the fact with Oculus Go and Quest that it's not possible to reach 90 hertz, and they've got a maximum refresh rate of 72 hertz. And I think we all understand that limitation because it's mobile VR hardware. But when you've got a PC VR headset, I think players expect and want the best experience, and they want it to be 90 hertz. And I think it's these kind of numbers in reductions on a spec sheet that upsets everyone. But the thing is, the proof will be with our hands-on experience, And I think I just wanted to chuck a caveat in now before we move further on with the specs, that we have friends that we trust that were at GDC and had hands-on with this device, and they were singing its praises.
Exactly.
And I think this is the key thing to take away from this is, although, the specs on paper are disappointing to look at, and I get that. And I get that from a Rift hardcore owner myself. However, I think you just got to keep an open mind with this one. Wait till more people get their hands on it. We're all going to be there. We all share the same concerns and frustrations that you do as a consumer. So it will be with our hands-on experience next week that will be the really interesting part. But how do you feel about it? Like, before I move any further on with the specs.
I want to hear from our guests.
I'm actually with you, Mac. I think Oculus Rift S, there was like a lot of rumors already on this headset about the specs. So it wasn't a surprise to me, actually. And I think it's a logical move for Facebook, actually, strategic-wise, because this is a more accessible headset right now. And their goal was always to get 1 billion people into VR. So I don't think this is bad at all for the VR industry. I think I think personally that better specs is not necessarily what we need right now. I think we need more people in VR, so to get a higher active user base, and then hopefully that will also get more AAA developers to make content, because I think content is what we need right now, personally, because that drives usage, and that is also what is going to help us in the long term to get better content and also better specs, the money for the better specs. But of course, it's also still a bet for me as well. Only time will tell. And I have to try it myself as well too first before I can give any judgments. But this is my first impressions on the specs.
Yeah. So you were a little bit concerned, like I was, about the lower specs than we anticipated, maybe.
I was more concerned that people were hating on the headset before they even tried it, actually.
Fair point. Absolutely.
I'm more in that camp, actually. I'm kind of with Kaz on that, in that I've seen so much hate, thrown at it. And there's a lot. It's like way more than I was expecting. Like, people generally are quiet with their disappointments. This one seems to have, taken a flogging on Reddit, and people are making videos about it, bitching about it. And it's like, I don't understand. I'm a guy who uses VR every feckin' day, and Rift has been my daily driver. I've been begging Oculus for years now to just put something else out that's even an incremental, revision so I can replace my current one. This kind of does that. Am I scared of the Lenovo partnership and the way it looks like? The thing has taken a step back. I generally tend to like simple, sleek designs, and this thing has a glossy odd finish, a funky downward-facing blue light that does what on the front of it? I mean, I think they made some wrong decisions there, I'll be honest. And I am concerned about the kind of physical look of the thing. It looks a bit like you're looking into a blender or something. I don't know why. It doesn't really, it's not a sexy headset that I'm like, I want to put my face into that. But spec-wise, to me, again, I think they've made the right decisions. I was listening to Nate talk to the Tested lads about this, and I really think that Oculus's trade-off point, and considering the forward compatibility for existing users who don't need to change their PC spec, and considering the point that they're now, Rift is sold out and they're actually phasing it out. This isn't like, oh, here's another product to go and get. This is a on-the-shelf replacement for what's there. And they've actually been, just to remind people, they've been actually doing this for a couple of years. So they first had a Rift headset that came with an Xbox controller and that little funky little wand that you got. And slowly over time, they've been pulling bits out of the box, which shows me one thing. They have been moving against a strategy to simplify the onboarding part since day one. And they've been doing so consistently over years. So this is no surprise to me. The one thing that I've heard about that I think is the number one thing that Oculus need to do for themselves right now is listen to the PC community regarding tracking. People have already invested in the cameras. It's a software change to allow the headset to benefit tracking-wise from the existing cameras that people already have paid for, bought, have mounted in their homes. I'll do that. Invest the development dollars, bring that tracking out, please. And if there is any engineering reason why that's not possible, come out with a statement. Why?
I think that I heard somewhere, I can't remember where I heard it now, but that wasn't possible because it doesn't have any IR LED sensors on the actual headset itself. It does have the IR constellation tracking in the controllers, which the headset reads for controller tracking, but it doesn't have them in the headset. So if you look at the Rift, under an IR camera, you'll see it's got lights all around it.
Yeah.
Apparently, the new headset doesn't have them, so it's just not possible to utilize the sensors.
But why do you need the headset? Like what I'm saying is your tracking problem is going to be with the hands, right? And so they can pick up off the hands, feed that to the cameras, bring that to the software. I'm not talking about the headset. No one's beaten Beat Saber with their head, and if they are, you're nuts.
Right. Yeah. Go on, Tyrio. I know you're desperate to say something. Go on.
Tell us.
No, about that anyway. The controller are the part that you have to fix in a case. Even fix is a big word, but you are gonna be able to do it. But they have to do it. Like, the technology is there, is the same. The constellation tracking is the same for the controller, and there's not going to be problem for the headset itself because you can use the cameras, and using also Windows Mixed Reality, you don't really have problems like with the tracking with your head. It's like people are complaining about the ends.
And the thing is, as well, that we know that the controllers do work with the sensors because if you break your current OG touch controller, they will ship you out, or you'll have to buy the new touch controller. It's going to replace it. So basically the new touch controller, which comes with Quest and Rift S, will work with the original Rift with your sensor setup. However, it won't be the other way around. Your original Rift touch controllers won't work with Quest and Rift S. So yeah, you're right. They should just enable that and get that to work. But I just want to quickly touch on something before you move on, Zim, and that was the design. And I totally agree with you. I kind of akin Oculus to like the Apple of the VR world. They've got a design sort of precedent throughout their range. You look at the Quest, you look at the Rift, you look at the Go. They look very similar. You could look at them and say that is an Oculus headset. that's not the case with this headset. Like you say, the design choice clearly comes from Lenovo more on this design, which looks like a Windows MR headset. But again, I said this in my video, that although I'm kind of hung up about how it looks, because that's just the way I am, it's not really, doesn't really matter what it looks like. You know, if you're in a VR game, it just matters what the game looks like, and the experience is good.
Big part of it, though, it's important that too. I think, like, as an appeal to people, like if you want to be more consumer ready, it's another part of the appeal. And
I think it's a very personal thing.
Yeah,
though.
no, it's a very personal thing. But like I heard many people saying that it's ugly, and I mean, I share that. Like, it doesn't look so good compared to the first Oculus for me, anyway. But before going on in the conversation, I wanted to say my spin about the situation.
Sure, go for it.
About the launch, for me, they did a wrong thing, not for the headset. That I really understand the position, even if you guys know that I'm an enthusiast. Like, I want the best of the best every time. I really understand what they're doing, and I'm super happy that they went in this direction. For me, they did a very wrong move with marketing, because they position it, the Oculus Rift S, like the next big thing, and it's not. It's just a revision, and it's like a repositioning themselves in the market in a different way, even more towards the consumers. But we had this Oculus countdown. Like, I'm not gonna tell you anything until the last little second, and you're not gonna know it even from the presentation, because just people that are good enough are gonna be able to give their reviews and stuff like that. Like, they made it so big that all of us, we were all expecting more. And you said it too, like, we were expecting the same resolution as the Vive Pro. We weren't expecting that much, but we didn't even have that, because they made it so big that we were expecting that little more. And when you get to the point where, I have the screen, we know that is a good screen. Like, when we all received the Oculus Go, we were like, a freak, this is better than my Oculus Rift. Like, the lenses are better, the screen is better. But because we waited a year and there was so much hype around, we were expecting something better. Instead, we have the same of the Oculus Go, and it's like, hold on, this is a $200 headset. And I understand going back their move, because also with the 80 Hz, you're increasing the resolution, but you are decreasing the frame per second. So your computer is not going to have to render as much, and probably is going to have to render the same thing that your Rift was doing before. And so if you notice on the website, there are the same exact specs. And that's smart in a way.
It is.
But on the other, because the marketing created like so much, I was expecting more. And I'm not afraid of it, to say it. And I love the fact that they moved on inside-out tracking. For me, it's the future. And I say from like more than a year, because like having sensors around is like, okay, now you need them to have the perfect tracking. But the next iteration is going to have maybe a camera here on the back, and you're gonna be good to go. Nobody's gonna.
Yeah, that point we gotta to talk about tracking, right? Who here went from a particular expectation about the Move controllers and the PSVR combination, right? Tried it, and then totally revised that expectation. Like, for me, I was hell bent against it. It was satanic to me. It was like, I am not going to go for that. It's not going to work. This is 6-year-old technology. That is probably 3 to 5 years old in terms of R&D, and actually works really well. So, like you, Terry, I'm all for elimination of the cameras. The only people who I think really hurt in this space, Expert plus Beat Saber players. You know, who else is using the tracking res to the point where it's
we were at OC5 with the Onward, like talking about Onward, the ESL, and I think those people are not going to be able to play in the same way with the new tracking, without external sensors. I mean, when you are, I know the limits of the inside-out tracking because I use it a lot, and when you're very close to the cameras,
Ah.
you have some problems. When you are very close to a wall or very close to the floor,
prone.
you can have some problems.
Yeah.
Like I never seen anyone standing up during the game. Like they were all prone all the time. So like, I mean, I want to see how that is going to evolve in that way.
Yeah.
I'm super confident about the inside-out tracking, but it has its limitation. I think that with these, they pushed in a way where the limitation is very small, very, very small, because putting two cameras on the side, the one on the top as well. That one on the top is a genius. Like
very smart.
It seems like a 360 camera is super genius. And I really like, because it's going to open to so many more people. You just connect to cables, you're good to go. But again, PC enthusiasts, like, this is not probably the one for you. And PC enthusiasts were waiting for it, not regular people, let's be honest.
Yeah, who didn't buy an RTX card, right? In the anticipation that maybe I could push the next headset. Yeah. Kaz, go on.
Exactly.
I have a question for you, because I don't have much experience with Windows Mixed Reality headsets, but I was wondering, because the Oculus Rift S has 5 cameras, like one on top, do the other Windows Mixed Reality headsets have that as well? Or is that new?
They just have 2.
They have just 2 on the front, and that's it. And okay, so with the tracking, like many people are concerned, but the inside-out tracking works pretty well also with 2 cameras, because when you move, also Beat Saber, you're gonna be able to play it, because even if he's not there, because it takes the velocity of your controller. So like, take a controller, here is tracked, then you go back, it has the velocity inside, as gyroscope, accelerometer, and everything you need. So it knows that you're still moving, and when you stop, it knows that you stop. When you start again, it knows that you start again. So like, there's a lot of processing behind. It's not like it's there, it's lost forever. Like, where is my hand? Like,
so that kind of confirms to me that maybe the 5 cameras on the Oculus Rift S could be potentially better than what we have right now, right?
Absolutely. But hold on, better than what?
Than the Windows Mixed Reality.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, like 3 times better probably. Also, like playing VR Dungeon Night the other day, I was with the Odyssey, and I was climbing, and I was like this, and I didn't have the tracking at that point, so I had to look up and move like this, because you have just 2 cameras. With the Oculus Rift S, that is not going to happen. You're going to have the tracking.
So just for our audio listeners' benefit, so you were motioning over your head like you were climbing a ladder, and then doing kind of rung-to-rung movement?
Yes. Yeah.
And I think you made a really interesting point about the ESL and the VR League, because historically they've been sponsored by Oculus. They're all wearing Oculus headsets. Will they be using the new Rift S? And it seems strange that they wouldn't be if they're phasing out the old Rift. It's not like they're going to bring out new hardware, old hardware at a big event, you know? So really interesting point. Definitely interested to see what happens there. But in terms of the cameras, I don't think anyone really has any issues with the Oculus Inside Out tracking. Most of the negative comments I've seen online have been about the resolution and the refresh rate. I think that's the 2 biggest gripes that everyone has, and the fact that it's an LCD, not an OLED. But of course, being an LCD does come with its benefits, right?
Exactly.
Tyrell, you know this as well. That because
RGB
of the
pixel arrangement.
The pixel arrangement, right? It's more. Let me sort of get to the bit here.
I was going to say, explain for humans, Mike.
Yeah. Basically, let me just get to it here. It has a higher sub-pixel count. So basically, for each pixel, you have 3 sub-pixels with the LCD arrangement that they've got: green, blue, and red. Whereas with OLED, it's a pentile arrangement, so you only get 2 sub-pixels. What this actually means in real terms is that the clarity of the display, it looks really nice. It's the same with the PSVR. Although it's a low-resolution headset, the clarity of the headset is actually really good, and it's because of that technology. So yeah,
perfect.
Tyrell's holding up an image. So on the left there is the LCD, and on the right is the pentile arrangement of an OLED.
This is the LCD RGB pixel arrangement. This is the pentile.
Exactly.
And it's like, if you compare the same resolution, is like 30% more pixels.
Yeah.
30%.
Right.
And in this case, you have even more pixels, so it's just better on that way. And clarity and readability is much better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and reduced God rays, right? And also much less screen door effect.
No, that's more about like the lenses, not the screen. Yeah. But in terms of like clarity, it's gonna be more clear. But if you have like the Oculus Go, we all know how it's gonna look, the Oculus Rift S. Like if you have the Oculus Go, you get inside, like, do you like it? Yes. You don't like it? No. That's the point.
It's lovely heads. Lovely display on the Go. I've been wishing from a racing sim perspective for ages, and you need it for the apex of corners. Like you need that clarity. If you're an Elite Dangerous and you're trying to read a manuscript or some news, like for ages, people have been using like the Odyssey, like you mentioned, for that clarity because the current Rift, it just isn't quite enough. So I'm super excited for it from that respect. And actually, I think the change in panel technology is a right choice, another good engineering decision in my opinion, and at the same price as the Quest now.
Yeah, for me, for experience, personally, I like both, and the LCD are good for readability and clarity, but like the AMOLED, OLED are just like those colors are like, I don't know, you feel warm inside. You feel like, wow, it's so good. Yeah. And so it's a weird move, but I can tell you that for me, at least like the Oculus didn't have the best colors and didn't have the best blacks, even if it was an OLED.
Correct.
So you're not gonna see that big difference if you come from an Oculus Rift. You're gonna see more differences if you come from like a Vive or something like that. Well, there you're gonna lose a lot of like brightness, colors, and contrast. But so it's low persistent too, and that's like John Carmack's like said that it's as fast as the OLED that they were using on the Oculus Rift. So there's no problems marrying and all those weird effects.
And I think this is where a presentation would have come in useful, because where you had the specs just launched and everyone just loses their minds about it on Reddit and everywhere else, and I completely understand why, and I do share some of those concerns as well. But I think they could have countered some of these arguments that we're having right now by saying, okay, this is the specs and this is why we did it for this reason, but don't worry, it's still going to look freaking amazing in the headset, and it's going to look way better than the Rift you already have. Someone just saying that would have put a lot of people at ease, I think, including myself. And I think it's us that are having to deliver this message now in a way that are like, I know that the specs don't look great. We're going to try it next week and obviously find out for sure with our hands on. But the people that we know that have tried it already said that it's a great headset and a worthy upgrade.
I get a feeling it was a resourcing call. I get a feeling that out of the two major launches, they're like, which of these is do we need to push clout? Who's going to, from a conversion point, to Kaz's point earlier, what's going to convert more people? And honestly, I think the people in a living room with Beat Saber and the Quest is what's going to convert people. It's not going to be the Rift S. And so you have to back the horse that's going to win. You're going to have to put the energy behind that. And to be honest, when you've got limited, person power behind that, I really think that they probably, again, made the right decision. And not to say that I didn't want a celebration. I absolutely always do. I love the gaming big celebrations. I love when people are on stage touting this stuff. And as you said, helping to demystify stuff from out of the gate so we're not guessing for weeks. At the same point, I gotta say it seems like the right call.
You're right, I think. Actually, I read an article, I think by Road to VR or something. They did say that they were focused more on the Quest and they didn't have enough resources to do the Rift S as well, and that's why they were partnering with HP for that.
And I do genuinely believe that the Quest is a fantastic product, and I do think it's going to do way better than the Rift S's in terms of sales. So I understand their focus on that device. But will it be the headset that replaces your PC VR headset if you're a PC enthusiast now? No, again, it won't. It's going to be the Rift S, or it's going to be maybe something else we're going to talk about shortly.
I got to say about price, because we didn't talk about the price comparison so much, but that's kind of an evil move. It's kind of an evil move to say, like, hey, guess what, guys? You saved out $399? Well, you got to pick. Which one are you going to go for, huh? Which one?
I feel like they pushed the Rift S to $399 to don't destroy, to don't take out from the Quest, because if you think about like stuff inside, like the Quest should be most expensive. Absolutely. Much more expensive. Yeah. And that's why I didn't understand like the move. Like instead of giving me the Oculus Rift S made in collaboration with Lenovo. Why you didn't just take the Quest, take out the battery, the Snapdragon 835, the storage parts, and like just the PCI inside that are like gonna bring stuff and all the magic happen, and just give me a dull headset exactly like the Quest.
Yeah.
Instead, no, we had like something different, and that's what made people, for me, like.
I agree. I think that's what everyone expected. You know, if they'd have done that and put another camera on top of the Quest, yeah, I would have been like pretty happy with that. Same manual IPD adjustment, you know, same resolution display. I would have been happy with that, because that's something we didn't mention actually. The Rift S is going to have a software-based IPD adjustment, and the problem with that is that it won't accommodate the same range of users that we already have with a manual adjustment IPD with the Rift and the Quest. And I actually sit at the very lowest IPD setting, so I'd sit at like 59, 60.
Oh no, really?
Which is very low. And I was on the very edge of struggling with the Go, because I think the Go's minimum is 62.
The Go isolated a lot of people, actually. So, yeah. I mean, and the software adjustment, this is the thing I don't understand yet. I don't have facts on it, so maybe Mike, you can clear up if you do know, or anyone else. When we're talking software IPD adjustment, I know it does the calculation automatically, sets it automatically, but is that resetting it every time I hit the headset on?
No.
I assume not. It's like a measurement and then it's locked in, because I don't want automatic BS fecking with my vision every game session.
It's not automatic, because automatic IPD adjustment needs eye tracking, and we don't have eye tracking.
Good.
It's like simply like you do it in Windows Mixed Reality already. You go in the settings and you like there's a slider and you put it there. And what it happens is like you just change the distortion profiles of what you're seeing.
Right.
Because like in base of the position of your eyes in front of those lenses. And all the Windows Mixed Reality beside the Odyssey use that kind of way. And it works, but is not as good. And the thing I'm happy is like the difference is like here you have the Oculus Go lenses that were very, very good, even if you don't have IPD adjustment. Like I'm probably the worst person to talk about these things, because I'm 66, that I'm pretty much in the average like person.
64.5. I'm like right on the.
Yeah, you're even like
right
even better. Like you're never gonna have to move anything in your life, but. We are pretty like lucky about this, but I have a lot of people like in the comments that they tell me like I couldn't use the Go, and probably you're not gonna be able to use the Rift S as well. And that's why for me it's a weird move too, because in a way you moved on the broad market, having the fact that I go on 80 Hz, so you can keep the same specs. I keep the price lower as possible, so I can get to more people. And at the same time, you don't allow the new people that they couldn't use it because of IPD adjustment to use it. It's just, I have mixed feelings, and I can't wait to try it, because I want just to stop it in mixed feelings.
And I think, because I think we could talk about this all day. I think it's fair to say we all have mixed feelings about it. We all have our concerns. However, we're all excited to try it. And, you know, I think these games like Stormland, Asgard's Wrath, they're going to look amazing in this headset. So that's what I'm super excited for.
We feel net positive. Across this group, I would say we're net positive on the headset with some reservations. Yeah,
of course. And I think, you know, I'd love to know what the chat thinks as well, because I'm sure there's some people in there that are very angry about it. But I'd be interested to know. Yeah. I'm sure they are. But I would just say, you know, just wait a little bit longer, see what we say. We've got the same concerns as you, but we're more optimistic, I would say, from what we've heard from our friends that have tried it already. But in terms of release, I just want to cover this quickly, because in my video I said that I thought it was going to release during F8, but now I actually redact that, and I think that it's going to release a lot sooner. I think it's going to be released on the 3rd year anniversary of Rift, which is actually next week on the 28th. So I wouldn't be surprised if it releases on the 28th next week. If you're interested in picking one up.
It's sold out now in the US. Like you can't buy it anymore. Also in the Oculus website. So
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I don't think they're gonna keep it like in this situation for longer.
I think we should all give a little salute to Rift. You've served us well for 3 years. We salute you. We're intrigued at what you bring to us next. But yeah, if you've got any questions that maybe we can read out that are suitable to read out, then let us know before we move on to the HP Reverb, because this might be the alternative for you, you know, maybe. But I think, with the reverb, which we're going to get onto, there's some limitations with that as well. And Tyrael is the best man to talk about that for sure.
Oh, I have to talk about it. Okay.
Not yet. I'm just wondering if there's any questions from the chat.
There was, Mike, when you did that, there was a slight, your usual internet pause, so it accentuated the fact that you were like, and now over to Tyrael. It was good. That was good. That was we're going to clip that one later. Anyway, on to the reverb, man.
Okay, so let's get onto the reverb then, because that wasn't, obviously Rift S wasn't the only headset that was announced at GDC last week, and this one got everyone excited too. And it's kind of funny because the HP reverb looks more like a second generation Rift than Rift S does.
Yeah, WTF, man. It totally swapped. What are they doing?
I know, right? So this is HP's new Windows mixed reality headset. We've previously talked about it on the show. It was under the code name of Copper, but now they announced that the official name is going to be Reverb. And basically, this one piqued my interest alongside Rift S. And I've been looking forward maybe a Windows MR headset for a little while. I've mentioned it on the show that I was looking at getting the Odyssey or the Odyssey Plus when they had the big price drops, and I was going to order one from Big Apple Buddy, but they screwed me over twice, so I didn't end up getting one in the end. So the HP Reverb
they didn't respond to you twice, right? Or they didn't follow through. I don't know if they screwed you over. That's a little bit hard.
They messed me around.
Yeah.
So the HP Reverb is actually a device that I'm actually thinking about buying, alongside the other two headsets, of course, the Quest and the Rift S. So I know that this next couple of months is going to be very expensive for me, but that's the way it is. But basically, the Reverb uses two front-facing cameras for tracking, just like the rest of the Windows Mixed Reality headset lineup. And for the most part, like Tyrael said, it does a pretty good job, although there are some movements that are going to be compromised or tricky. Using a device like this, it won't have the same range of tracking that the Rift S is likely to offer. I think that's fair to say, right? The Rift S has got 5 cameras. This HP Reverb's got 2 cameras. In terms of specs, though, where it gets really interesting is the resolution of this headset, because it's 2160 by 2160 per eye, and that's a big jump. When you compare it to Rift S, which is 1280 by 1440 per eye. It's a very big jump, And this means that it's going to look super nice in the headset. And this is going to be like one of the highest resolution headsets that you can buy, even higher than the Vive Pro.
It's actually the highest that you can buy, even more than the Pimax 8K, because you have to consider resolution not just for the panel itself, that is already very high, because 2160 by 2160, but for the pixel per degree. So how many pixels you have in your degree of view, and this has the highest in the market, like a 65, something like that, when the Pimax is like around 40 and the Vive Pro is around 30, something like that. So it will be the most resoluted, how do you say it? Most resoluted headset.
Finely detailed, beautiful picture.
You're absolutely right there, because the Pimax has to share it with that whole 170-degree field of view, whereas with the Reverb, it's got 114 degrees field of view. So, like you said, it's going to look super nice. It's going to be a very high resolution. And again, it uses an LCD panel. So just like I explained with the Rift S, it's got that RGB subpixel stripe, which means that, it's going to be more dense, and it's going to look nicer in terms of the display, although it comes with a compromise, just like the Rift S, that it doesn't have the same really rich and dark black that it can provide with an OLED panel. So, again, with the Reverb, it has a software-based IPD adjustment, although this one does have integrated earphones like the original Rift, so if you're a fan of those, you'll like those. It's got the same baseball cap style fit as the original Rift as well.
I gotta play the Palmer Lucky role here just for a moment, because I'm sure and he probably had an inside track on this with friends or whatever who are feeding him info on the S, but the removal of the audio, like Lucky was and still is, of course, he's not dead, he's just not with Oculus anymore, is an audio file, right? And engineered a solution that really delivered audio fidelity, 3D audio, spatial audio, in a way that was surprising even to someone who really appreciates fine audio. They took it out, most likely for economic reasons, right? And it makes sense. Again, another appropriate move given their targets and what they're trying to do. But if you look at this headset, and to Mike's analogy, not Mark, Mike, Mike's analogy, imagine those seagulls now, Mike. If you take that and you look at this headset with a view of, oh, it's like Rift 2.0, yeah, you're not necessarily, it's an HP headset, you're paying $649, you're running it with a pretty beefy machine because you're going to need it for driving this, and it's maybe not what you're expecting in the audio department. I wanted to put that out there. I don't know what the specs are, but I'm guessing.
Yeah. And I think as well, like, we're going to get onto, like, it sounds all roses from what we've explained so far, but there are some big drawbacks. And I think this is where Tyriel's, experience with Windows MR can probably shine through, because you've had a lot of hands-on time with the Windows MR headsets. Maybe we should just start with generally what you think about Windows MR as a platform in general before we get into, like, controllers and everything else.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I want to just go back a second to what Zim was saying, because for me, what you said about, like, the resolution, the feeling about the Rift 2 and stuff like that is actually this HP headset, for me, is a key point to understand the Rift S, because you have that resolution that, guys, is amazing. Like, of course, it's gonna look amazing in your eyes, but we can't run it. Like, I have a 2080 Ti, I'm trying to run that resolution on a Pimax, and I cannot. Like, it doesn't run. Generation 2.0 of VR headset are gonna have like a forward rendering with the eye tracking and stuff like that, because we need that, because our PC are not fast enough for that resolution.
Exactly.
That's why you can understand better seeing these headset, you can understand better the Rift S and the position that they took of, like, having less resolution and be able to make a run on every PC that is already running VR. Yeah. Of course, there's also the part that they want to make some money because it costs less. Of course, we're not saying that it's not like that, but also like, it fits, like, the purpose of Oculus to bring it to more people, because if not, with HP, yes, I would buy the HP, but I know that I'm going to have to crank down the resolution of the rendering, and it's not going to look as good as a native resolution.
Exactly. So what about you, Kat? How do you feel about this HP Reverb? Are you sort of tempted to sort of buy one, or not so much?
Well, we haven't talked about the price yet, right? What did we? It's $600 for the HP headset.
$650.
Yeah.
$650.
$650 for business. $599 for.
Oh, right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I feel like the only big difference is the resolution, and I don't think I would like like, for example, I constantly switch between the Oculus Rift and the 5 Pro, and I know the 5 Pro it has a higher resolution than the Rift itself, but not higher than the HP Reverb. But still, the 5 Pro looks amazing to me. But when I switch, I still get the same kind of gaming experience when I'm playing both devices. I also tried the Pimax before, and although that looks amazing to me, I can still switch back. It's no problem for me. So I don't think personally that it would be worth to pay $200 more just for the bigger resolution and the slightly better refresh rate. That might not make a difference at all. If you are on a budget, that is. If you want an upgrade and don't mind paying the money, then yeah, I think it could be a good option.
2 gold chains and a couple of headsets and a Lambo. It's fine.
But I think Tyriel made a really good point, and that's you're going to need, like, high-end hardware to run this. A 2080 Ti is likely, but even on top of that, there are some other compromises you're going to have to make, because the one weakness that I found with Windows MR is that the controllers suck. Like, I hate the controllers. They are basically like having 2 torches in your hand, because they use LED tracking.
Whoa. You got to translate for Americans. They're going to think 2 sticks with fire, not 2 sticks with fire.
So basically, they burn through batteries, like, ridiculously fast. That's right, isn't it, Tyriel? They really go through batteries.
Yeah, and my suggestion number 1 is to go for rechargeable batteries, because you're not going to need it.
Absolutely. And the thing is, like, if you're an Oculus Rift owner right now, you've probably got a lot of Oculus titles in your Oculus Home library, and and Steam VR. And Windows MR does work with Steam very well. It's pretty much compatible in every Steam VR game. However, when you try and play Oculus titles that are exclusive titles, which we know are the really exciting games, really, because they're the only ones funding games right now. So games like Asgard's Wrath, Defector, Stormland, these great big titles that we're looking forward to playing. Yeah. And if you're thinking, oh, I'll buy the Reverb, use Revive and play these Oculus titles with this new headset with the amazing field of view and resolution that I want, the problem you're going to have is the controller mapping, right? And you've had some experience with using Revive with the Oculus.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a thing that is nice though, because with Revive, it has a spin on it, a second version for just Windows Mixed Reality, where you actually map better the controllers to use the thumbstick like it should be in the Oculus Rift. And the buttons, like they're gonna be the top and the bottom on the thumbstick. The touchpad. On there. But yeah, it will never feel like the Oculus Touch anyway. Those are like, just for me, they're still the best controllers. I'm gonna say it forever and ever. The only thing is are a little short for me because I have big hands, but they feel right. If I wanna play Oculus games and I have the Odyssey Plus, I have the Pimax, I have the most resolution things you guys can imagine, but I go back to the Oculus Rift because I rather have the experience as it should be, and not sometimes you lose some frames and stuff like that. But again, I don't have two Oculus Rift. So when I play with Heather from the other sun, I'm in the Pimax, or I'm in the Odyssey Plus, I'm in the Vive Pro with Revive, and she's on the Oculus Rift. And that makes you also understand the fact that I can bear with frames that are not there in the right moment, tracking that sometimes goes a little crazy. Yeah. Instead, a regular person that play less than me, she gets sick if stuff are not going the right way.
Good man to his woman. Good man to his. I'm just going to point that out there. You got yourself a good dude, a good VR dude, sensible. Doesn't put you through the stomach trauma, There you go.
There are a lot of ways to change the mapping of the controllers. Also on Steam now you can do it. It's very nice, and Windows Mixed Reality is getting better and better. Yeah. But I think it's not at the point yet where you can use it for everything. But you have the same problem with the Vive 2 if you want to play in Revive. Sometimes the Arctica doesn't run so well on the Vive, and it's just like that. It really depends. The ecosystem. At the end of the day, we are still it's a very a PlayStation, Xbox. What I want for games more, and then you decide, even if the Xbox controller for me is better, but I want to play from I don't know. I'm not a PlayStation person. The Last of Us. I want to play The Last of Us, and I can't because I have the Xbox One controller. But it's a little tricky. It doesn't work as well for the Oculus titles. Some Steam VR titles too. They can give some problem, but overall, I always suggest Windows Mixed Reality. But with desired resolution, I'm concerned about what you're gonna be able to run anyway with the Reverb.
So I think this headset's going to be coming out April time. We're not sure if it's going to be available in Europe, just like we had the problems with the Odyssey. I think it might be US only. I'm not 100% sure on that. But just to sort of summarize then about the Rift S and Reverb, the Rift S obviously has a low resolution, has a low refresh rate. However, it's going to have better tracking. It's going to have better controllers, and it's going to have better support for first-party games, which are the big AAA games that we've been really looking forward to. And it costs $400. The Reverb has higher resolution, higher refresh rate, worse tracking, worse controller, and you're going to need to use Revive to access Oculus titles, which are unlikely going to be mapped one-to-one, and it's going to cost you $600. So really, the information is there. It's a tough call. There's going to be use cases that choose one over the other, and I understand that, but it's all going to be down to your own personal use cases.
But if you are a very enthusiast, you can actually use the lighthouses with the Windows Mixed Reality and use the Vive tracking with that for the controllers, and use just the headset for the headset tracking.
mind blown. So there you have it.
But it's a very enthusiast thing, so you need to buy a Vive as well with a Reverb.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, to come, there's going to be Valve doing their thing, like we mentioned earlier. So if you're confused or conflicted, maybe wait a little bit longer. I think we'll know for sure in a few months. So if you can hold that a little bit longer because you're really on the fence about all these things we've talked about today, then just wait a little bit longer and see what Valve brings to the table as well.
It's going to be a bloody busy April and June.
It is.
I mean, out the door, if we just consider Quest, Quest lands... Here's 50 games to play and cover and record and all that. Oh, and here's Rift S, and oh my lord, this is going to be a very busy summer.
Exactly. So we've gone on longer than we usually gone on, but it's because we've had so much to talk about, and I think it's really important that we kind of hit on all the topics that we did. If you've got any questions, now's a good time to do it while I sort of recap the show, and then we can sort of round up the show and leave you to have a nice weekend. So just a reminder, this is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show, live streamed every Saturday on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Tune into the show at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, 12 midday in Central US. Check out the audio version on your commute or on your travels, available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Anchor. So now's a great time for questions. If you've got any, go for it. You can ask us anything you want, whether it be about the Rift S, the Reverb, the Quest, any concerns you might have. If you're excited for more news coming next week at PAX, let us know.
Radil Zavedno says, why no thoughts about Cosmos?
We've covered the Cosmos on a previous episode of the show. Exactly. There wasn't really anything at GDC about the Cosmos. We were hoping that they were going to show it and get more hands-on time with it, but they didn't.
Another question here?
The thing about the Cosmos, though, like they are moving, Vive is moving, like HTC Vive is moving exactly in the same way Oculus is moving right now. If you notice, like they're switching them to inside-out tracking. So probably we're going to have these discussions all over again when the Cosmos is going to be released.
Absolutely.
I love Rowdy's question. Got a question. What does the sweater say? I think it's Abercrombie and Fitch, which is I think it's an American brand because they always have like the sexy guy model, which I assume Rowdy has modeled for in the past.
They have girl models too.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
That sounded more indicting than it should have been. There's another one here, I'm sure.
While you're looking for questions, maybe we can just answer one easy question each, and that's what are you most looking forward to next week at PAX? And I'll kick it over to Cass first.
I'm really looking forward to trying the Quest again. Actually, I'm just really hyped for that device. Just trying out, going crazy with Beat Saber and the new games as well. That is what I'm most excited for. Awesome.
What about you, Terrell?
Like, I want to see this Rift S and like crank it, like see like everything about it, because like I just want to understand it, and as I said, I have mixed feelings. I don't want to have mixed feelings. I want to know what's going on in there. So I want to stuff clear, like.
Yep.
And
I feel the same way. Absolutely, feel the same way that you do, and I'm really excited to check out Asgard's Wrath and get my hands on that game. That looks really nice. What about you, Zim?
I have to try to the other. The one from Insomniac, Stormland. I didn't try it yet. Like I want to try it so much.
That game is so nice.
Oh, you'll like it. And apparently, well, no, wait. I think we were guessing maybe there might be multiplayer. The best part about Stormland for me was you can pop your arm off and upgrade it. I wish I could upgrade these arms, without going to the gym. It'd be great.
Yeah. The multiplayer is.
Pop them off.
I hear you.
The multiplayer is co-op. You can play co-op together.
And to answer your question, Mike, next week, this is going to sound super cheesy, but it's true. And this is the way I go to any event, is the people. If I went there and there was just headsets in a dark room, I wouldn't give a feck about it. But seeing all of you being together with other VR enthusiasts, even one who you haven't seen in a while, is an insane energy bubble that once you've tapped into that, man, that's better than cocaine. Never had cocaine, but I know it's better than cocaine. So there you go. What do we got here? There were questions about like the move away from Windows MR. VRBug, who's a friend of mine from Twitchland, is surprised at the move deeper into the MR category when he felt that Microsoft was striving away from it. And to be honest, I was a little bit surprised at that as well. They seem to be doubling down on something that wasn't doing that well for them. But I think that all those pickups, maybe with Walmart, and other large corporations really striving into the corporate domain, maybe has turned that around. I don't know. What's your opinion on that?
I think they highlighted in their keynote that they knew that the Windows ML lineup was a subpar product compared to what was already available on the market.
Yeah.
So they were up against stiff competition from the outset, and that was the issue. Obviously now that's changed. Samsung Odyssey is an amazing headset, but the original lineup wasn't particularly strong.
But I mean, the original idea of Windows Mixed Reality was to be competitive in prices. That was the idea. And the problem is okay, we're going to have an headset for $399, and it's not going to be the best one, but it's going to be $399. That's how they came out. When the Rift was $699 and the Vive was $799. And then a week after, Oculus dropped the price, and it was what the heck? I just made this for people. Now you're bringing down the price as well. So it didn't work out because then the market changed in that same period at the same time. It was weird.
Yeah, exactly.
Final question. What kind of game is Stormlands?
So Stormland is a game where you play a robot farmer on a planet. It gets invaded by these weird aliens. You get basically Left 4 Dead, and you wake up and all your little robot farming buddies are scattered around the environment. You have to basically salvage parts from them to upgrade yourself and basically fight back. And then there's going to be some real cool co-op missions, like raids, like Destiny-style co-op raids that you can do with your buddies. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's made by Insomniac. It's awesome. I tried it. It's awesome. Super hyped for that game.
So you take the movie WALL-E and you add locomotion, and boom,
Yes.
There you go.
That's it. In a nutshell, absolutely. That is this week's episode wrapped up. We're going to be doing the show from the show floor at PAX next week, and we won't be doing it live, but we'll be premiering it at the usual time.
Yeah.
So come back at the usual time. The show will be there. We'll be in the chat interacting with you live, but the show will be pre-recorded, just to give you the heads up. Yeah. But obviously we're going to have hands-on with the Rift S, loads of Quest stuff, all the games. So it's going to be an interesting show. So make sure you stay tuned for that one. We hope you have a great week in VR until then. Thanks again for joining us on the show. Thanks again to Cass for joining us, and Tyrell Wood as well. Thank you guys. It's been a pleasure talking VR with you.
Superb.
As always. Can't wait to hang out with you both next week. So have a great week, guys. See you next week. Until then, bye for now. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Ciao.